Okay. How many of you love to listen to music live?
Yes.
So, as you might know, there are 14 million unsigned bands on MySpace Music alone, which is the largest platform for bands who are unsigned. 45,000 on the platform are professional musicians. As you might know, in order to make it in music, you have to gig. Bricks and mortar gigs on the ground are still the way to get known in music. So there are a lot of small bands out there unsigned, and in order to gig, you need to tour. You need to travel. So there was a Swedish band last week. Their dream is to travel and make it in New York City. Well, at least to start with New York City. And they booked their tickets, and they decided not to bring their instruments. Why? It's a hassle. They have to deal with customs, especially if they have a semi-professional band and they have a lot of equipment. The airline regulations are different and consistent, and you have to read them. And when you get to the airport, often the airlines themselves are not familiar with their own regulations, and they don't let you put your instrument and carry on. 40,000 musicians with the International Musicians Federation signed a petition and persuaded the airlines to change their regulations to allow instruments back on in cabin baggage, but they're not enforcing that. So a lot of musicians are having to buy a seat for their music instruments. It's very expensive, and they also fear damage when they do check their instruments. So what are the options for this Swedish band that traveled last week? Well, there are specialized freight companies that focus on musicians, but they target the professional bands that have a lot of money and are already making a lot of money, called sound moves. And you can't even get a price. When you call these companies, they negotiate a price. So it's hard for a small musician, and what small band is going to send their instruments overseas. Second option is to find local bands to share, and that coordination mechanism is simply not there. It's not working. Or they have to do it individually. There's no platform for it. Or they can rent the instruments. And you'd think this would be simple. It's not so easy. We called in New York. We talked to 5 shops, several small and several large, and they're only about that number serving instruments in general. When you call them and ask about rentals, they don't even advertise that they rent. If you call and ask them about rentals, they say, well, no, we really aren't willing to do this. The big shops won't rent because it's just too much risk. They're like, well, we're damaged to instrument, we don't know the people. And the smaller shops really want to rent. And these are the small shops that actually cater to Patti LaBelle and the big stars in New York. But they said that they don't have enough volume from the smaller customers to the smaller bands. So what are the options? We couldn't find any way around this in Washington. That Swedish band actually didn't get to gig. They couldn't find their instrument. So the one shop said that he'd like to help these small bands, and we found that we have a solution of creating a coordination platform to match these small bands, semi-professional, with a rental of music instruments. And we've created a platform that's live, and Andre is going to show you. Troubadour, look at your destination city. Select the instrument. It could include equipment, the dates. It'll show you the location where you're going. And then you can actually look at the specific instruments and the prices, because right now the prices aren't even advertised. So the band can see right there what the prices are for a particular type of instrument, book it, and we solve the problem, the damage and cost option that the larger shops have, because those larger shops are now, we'll be handling the insurance portion and pooling the risk of this aggregated demand that we create with the bands. We have a team of 5. We have insurance expertise, music business, American and Swedish market expertise. So we would launch in Sweden, between Sweden and New York, marketing and front and back end developers. We need $100,000 for 3 months and expect to launch a minimum viable product at that point, and then go live in 6 months. And Perry in New York City, one of the shop owners, said, wow, I'd really love to help out the small bands. If you can bring me the volume, I'll be able to supply more instruments, and I hope you can send me a written proposal. I'm really excited about this project. Thank you. Open for questions.